I'm here presenting the project AquaSmart, Aquaculture Open Data Cloud Innovation. That is a project that is funded by European Commission in the domain of the big data. And the objective of this project is to support the adoption of data in terms of open access in order to support innovation in this industrial sector. Basically, the AquaSmart project is focused on innovation and technology transfer using the multilingual data harvesting and the analytic solutions and services. So this project addresses a cross-sectorial aspect that pass through the border of a unique company and also of a unique country, basically intending to establish the interaction between the different stakeholders that operate in this industry, and then use the information that each company is able to produce, that is a big amount of data that is heterogeneous by nature and that needs to be standardized. And that's why we consider that the role of standardization is very much important. And considering my experience in the ISO TC184 SC4 committee, I consider that the adoption of these standards could be very much relevant to support the innovation that this project can bring. So mainly, the main activities that are related with this project addresses the prototyping, the testing, the demonstration, the piloting in large-scale product validation and market replication. And that's here that, in fact, to have the usage of a reference model based in a standard is very much important. So the main aim of the project, as I said, is to accelerate innovation in Europe's aquaculture industrial domain and to support the deployment of open data solutions through multilingual data collection and analytic solution. So due to the large volumes of heterogeneous aquaculture data that is coming from the different stakeholders, as I said, in a specific country and abroad, it's very much important to find mechanisms to support interoperability of the data assets and the knowledge that is involved in all these organizations. And data interoperability, and especially semantic interoperability, is relevant, and SC4 standards can provide a very good support for this achievement. So the main challenges that are being addressed is the technology transfer to support the exchange of the state-of-the-art appropriate tools and solutions, here including the standards to the industry, supporting the innovation and not just the usability but the reusability through the different stakeholders and users, and develop at the end appropriate training to enable that all of them will be able to use properly the reference models and the tools that will be developed on top of these standards. As well, because we are addressing different European countries, the support of multilingual aspects are very much important to allow seamless open data setting. And here again, standards like SC4 can provide a strong contribution for this achievement. So the motto of this project is actually to bring big and open data analytics as a service to the aquaculture industry. So basically, the intention is to collect all this data that is coming from the different sources, that is a big amount of data, use the cloud computing technology that nowadays is very much in practice to collect and store all these big data, and then using reference models enable the interoperability between the different sources of heterogeneous data and provide as a service the possibilities of analytics in top of these big data. talking here in analytics in a global integrated way, where the seamless understanding of the data coming from the different sources is very important. So the vision is to move from what is now, that is a mess of big data, where nobody is able to understand, to something that is well organized and have here in the middle of this sphere that I'm representing here, let's say, standards. And what we are looking for is exactly to have SC4 standards as to support to get the implementation in terms of reference models for this big data heterogeneity problem solution. In terms of the expected result, so using these standards, we intend to achieve the transformation of this data into a global knowledge, I would say even a global seamless knowledge, which anyone is able to understand in the same way what is the meaning of the knowledge that is involved in the different process of this industry, and also to provide a better view or a better understanding of the data that is related with, in this case, the production related of the fish. And for that, it's very much important to have the seamless global way to analyze the data, because it's the unique way found to enable the change of information that exists from the different systems that are used in the different stakeholders. So if you look here for the methodological approach that we have, so basically this is really a project that intends to adopt standards to support this open big data, and the starting point is a real industrial problem. So the aquaculture sector business really needs to have a standard-based solution to support the seamless integration of all different sources of data, and for that it's in adoption open data cloud, so it's a cloud computing infrastructure that will support and store all the data, and afterwards to have mechanisms that support the interoperability and integration of all these sources of big data. And at the end, there will be training that will be multilingual, exactly to enable that anyone can be able to use the models in the appropriate way. So today, effectively, there are technology that support that, but what is used is more empirical, is not based in standards, and the main problem that exists, in fact, is that the companies are not able to interpret the data they capture. I mean, they can interpret, but they are not able to interpret completely and properly the data. Sometimes because it is represented in different languages, sometimes because the reference models are different, and here typically, as it happens, for example, in other industries based in small and medium enterprises like furniture industry, we have in the same company different systems developed by different software providers that use different reference models. So this means that at the end it's not possible to find a complete integrated and interoperable solution. So basically what is required is in fact to have a coordination between all the stakeholders supported by external experts that can promote the adoption of such reference models. And in this case, what we are looking for is to use the ISO TC184 SC4 standards, so related with industrial data, not in this case for manufacturing, but for the aquaculture industry, as the support for the standardization of these reference models. At the end, when we expect that such standards can be adopted, we expect to have the cloud infrastructure where the big data will be stored to be an open data cloud based in standards, and to have SC4 as the source of these reference model mechanisms, which, using appropriate services, anyone can access and can use properly the data. I mean to provide interoperability or complete interoperability for this industrial domain. To have training is fundamental because we don't want just to have a couple of companies using this approach. We intend to make available, and now using e-training, so to put available in the web training material which anyone can learn what the reference models are being used, how they should be used, and also with this mechanism to support the usage of this reference model. So basically the different or the main sources of data that are involved is related with life-to-date, harvest, sampling, periodic, with data sources coming from stock translation, fish behavior, environment, production practices, people, equipment, etc., etc. So basically we have different sources of data. This is really a large spectrum of data that mostly today is used in a flat way. So we have very much these relational mechanisms to support the data that has been produced, and to have the capabilities that most of the SC4 standards can provide using the mechanisms of objects, and all these referencing possibilities will be very much available also to support and innovate the way this data is being processed and used in this industry. And at the end, of course, we have here the stakeholders engagements, and now this is the project that just started a couple of months ago. So in February 2015, it will last 2 years. And the main target in this moment is exactly to involve all these companies in the understanding of the SC4 standards in order to motivate them to look for its adoption in their software applications. There are some other standards that already have been in consideration. One is this ISO 12006.3 that has been used by the construction industry, and that refers to language independent information model to support the development of dictionaries. So this could be a possibility, but for sure SC4 also can provide a strong contribution in this domain. Another aspect, and for me this is really core when the project was designed, is to have the AquaSmart reference ontology as a reference model developed using SC4 standards. And this will be the core for the open data, big data cloud infrastructure. And with that, we expect to have a global knowledge access for all the data models that will be exchanged between the aquaculture companies and all its related stakeholders. And here the ambition is not just in Europe itself, but we think that if we provide such a solution, this can be really very much available all over the world where the aquaculture industry is very relevant. Especially, for example, in Asia, where the production of fish is really a very big industry, and they have exactly the similar problems that we are addressing here. So, in terms of intent, is at the end to make a more efficient market strategy concerning the adoption of these standards, having as a focus in this case SC4, and also, as I said, this responds very much for a strategy for Europe 2020, so 2020 strategy, where the aim is not just to look for the manufacturing industry, but look also for other industries which are very much relevant for the citizens. And in this case, we are addressing food. And as we have here for the aquaculture, we have also the agriculture aspect that is also very similar in terms of the identified problems, and which this project also intends to contribute as an extension of these results. So basically now with this project, the big challenge is look for the SC4 standards and integrate them as a solution for the project in terms of the support of reference model for open data cloud infrastructure. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
That's really very interesting. But what I was wondering, if this application then can be extended in any agriculture field, not only aquaculture, because I think the same problem could be also growing the tomatoes or potatoes. We have a lot of coming from different countries, different quality, different or even vitamins or whatever. So do you think that this could be used in any other field?
Yes, of course. I think that the way this project was designed and the problem was addressed, aquaculture is one segment of industry that is relevant, but the problem itself is valid in other domains, especially when we are addressing with products like those coming from the agriculture, so vegetables or whatever. Even the production of animals could be also relevant as an industry for this aspect, because here what we are addressing is the data related with the production itself of the animals, in this case related with fish, and how we can really harmonize and make all this information interoperable in order to be able to be used by others. So everywhere we have this kind of situation, the problem is similar and the approach could be the same. So if I understood well your question, my comment is actually that indeed we could even move further. I mean, not look, for example, here in this community of the SC4 standards, not just for one solution for aquaculture, but perhaps one solution for all industries that are related not to the manufacturing domain, but for example, animals production or vegetables production, so for different industries where life being is an issue. That is different from what manufacturing is, but I strongly believe that the mechanisms that exist today in SC4 are in fact very much relevant and appropriate to be adopted for solutions like this one.
Thank you.
Yeah, please. Sorry, you have to come here.
Yes, thank you. I have two questions. First of all, the question of assimilating together collections of data, what's it called, big data. There's a UK national policy to integrate big data, but they don't seem to have realised they need a common reference model. Do you think that regardless of what you are actually applying it to, whether the technology you develop is just generally relevant to collections of big data?
Yeah, this is, okay, thank you very much, Dr. Stinos, for your question. Actually, this is a very, very interesting and important question, because of course we are talking about data, and it's important to understand how this data is collected. So far, there are sets of data that are very known how this can be collected and in which way they should be worked as big data. However, there are other data that in this moment is not so easy to collect. For example, in the aquariums, sometimes there are really divers that are inside the aquarium collecting this data, and this data needs afterwards to be introduced in the system. So this becomes other different kind of problem that needs in somehow also to be addressed. So in this case, for example, technologies like what is now very known as Internet of Things, of cyber-physical systems with automatic mechanisms to collect data and to provide through sensors this data available in such big, large scale could be part of the solution. But here again, there is the problem of interoperability, because this data has been collected and each solution has its own reference model. And again, we face another problem, is how to learn from the others. And for example, issues related with the way the fish is being fed, or diseases that can happen in one aquarium and can have impact in other aquariums, in, for example, companies that work nearby. So this needs really to be understood. And today, this is really a problem. Even when you are talking about companies that work in the same country, they use the same language to speak and to write, but as there is not a reference model, this becomes really an issue for interpreting. Okay, another question?